Hi, my name is Lucas Mulder. I'm a photographer, cinematographer, and colorist. And I'd like to talk about two revolutionary, and I don't use that word lightly, revolutionary tools from Color Intelligence, Look Designer and ColorLab AI, both of which over the past year have become my go-tos for look design and color grading in general. I have to admit, I was a little overwhelmed with ColorLab when I first signed up as a factory driver, so I put it aside and focused on Look Designer. I was then fortunate enough to take a number of the courses that Color Intelligence offers through their color training platform, which really helped cement how to integrate Look Designer into my workflow. Of those courses, Winter Look Academy took a deep dive into the color science and film stocks that are the foundation of the plugin and how best to put them to use. So let's start there with Winter Look Academy and some of the footage I used in my final project. The core of this look is built with Look Designer, used in 3 key places, emulating what would have taken place if this had actually been shot on film. So let's start here. This is the group pre-clip. Actually, let's take a step back. Everything we learned in Winter Look Academy was based around groups. That allowed us to emulate the negative here on the pre-clip, printing process on timeline, and then the clip was obviously reserved for our show look, our primaries and secondaries on a clip-by-clip basis. But as we're here on the pre-clip, we're focused on the negative. I should mention also that Look Designer is my IDT, so here I'm moving from red to airy, and then down here, and I'll go through all of these options over the course of the next few minutes, or most of them, we have our negative options. Currently, with this shot, I have Agfa XT 125 selected, and I'm running it at about 3/4. You can see there's a lot of different options here, Kodak, some Fujis, Agfa. But let's take the next one down the list, see what it looks like. That's also quite nice, that adds a boost of color, but maybe a little too much color, so I'm going to roll it off a little bit here. That looks good. And then for each of these options, we'll see there's a bypass, which is great. And then if you need further refinement, there is the global blend where, you can slide things back a little bit more. I'm going to leave that off though. But if you're starting from scratch, first thing you would do is you would go to the type of negative you wanted to use. These are the Gen 1 neg stocks. There's quite a number of them. And then there's the Gen 2, which just came out in 2.4, Look Designer 2.4, which there are less of, but I would say they're more refined versions of what was there previously. And then we have these major and minor, which are based around music. I haven't used those a lot, but there's some lovely looks in there as well. But I think for this, I'm going to stick with our Fuji Eterna. I like that. I like the way that's looking. So let's switch over now to the timeline. Take a look at what I'm doing for the print process. We have, some vignette blur here, some weave, some fade, things that would be happening during the printing and projecting processes. But we're going to focus here on my ODT, which is, as before, now we're moving from Arealog C to Rec 709. And we're not going to do anything here with negative options. We're going to switch over here to print options and post-processing. And I'm a sucker for 2383, so that's what I've employed here. There are lots of options again. We have some film curves. And what's really nice, I should mention, Look Designer splits contrast and color apart, so you can really fine-tune what you're and combine, really create all these hybrid film stocks, print stocks that are, Kodak with Fuji or Fuji with Kodak or different intensities. You really have a lot of options. And my recommendation is to use stills. When you're first, you'll eventually figure out what you like, but when you're first starting out, use a lot of stills because you'll find something you like and then 3 clicks later, you're miles away from it and you can't remember how to get back. So grab a lot of stills. So I'm going to leave this on 2383. And then again, you can pump up the contrast, put it way down. I think I had it right about there. And then for your color, this is just affecting color. You can flip it around. That's quite nice. It's good too. These are all great. But I think I'm going to stick with average and then bump it up or down as before, as with all of these. And there is these bypass print options, so you can see that's doing quite a lot. And then anytime these are in play, you're going to want to run this post-processing. Otherwise, that's just hammered with color because these print stocks are just pumping in color. So what this post-processing does is puts that in a gamut that's closer to film. So I chose ENR, which is a type of bleach bypass, but there's also film print emulation, which is going to bring in a bit more color, but I'm going to stick with ENR because I wanted that sort of bleachy look. And you can sort of fine tune that to where you like it. Still want a little bit of color, but that looks great. Okay, so let's now take a look at the clip level and see what's going on there. No color space transform. Obviously, we're just passing Arealog.C through. No print options, negative options, or post-processing here. So we'll close those up. So I'm going to focus on subtractive color and push-pull here to finish this look off. Subtractive color was something that was completely new to me when I first started using Look Designer. And now that I've been using it for a while, I really do love it. I don't think I can live without it anymore. And whatever Look Designer is doing under the hood, it's pretty magical. What subtractive color does is allows us to manipulate the way that the emulsion layers of a film stock would have reacted to light. We have our cyan, our magenta, and our yellow, which make up those emulsion layers. And we can mix them, like this to add, let's say I'm going to add some more cyan to this, take away some of the magenta, take away a little bit of the yellow. We can get a really quickly, that took 2 or 3 seconds, get a really cool look. But, as we move these sliders around, I may have noticed, I'll just push this one up a little artificially, we're losing exposure. We're adding density, we're increasing saturation, but we're losing exposure. So we need to compensate for that. And to do that, the simplest way is to, slide this push-pull, add a little bit of exposure, sort of compensate for that. That's why I built this look. And would it have been possible without Look Designer? Of course it would have, but it wouldn't have been as easy, and it definitely wouldn't have been as fun. So now let's see a few seconds of this look in action. Next, I want to talk about how I'm using Color Lab. Color Lab uses AI to quickly balance and match shots. You can bring in a reference shot from, say, Shot Deck, or bring in your own look, which is how I've been using it to date. I open my project in Resolve, use Look Designer to get the look started, and then bring that timeline over to Color Lab and go from there. But now, in the latest releases, Look Designer has been integrated directly into Color Lab, so the process is much more streamlined. So the first thing we're going to do is click Resolve Fetch, which brings my timeline over from Resolve. And it Color Lab recognizes that these 8 shots are all shot on the same camera. Just need to know what that is. It's an ARRI, so let's go up here to Arealog.C, and we'll hit Done, so it applies the IDT there. When you first open Color Lab, you're going to see something similar to this. You got your current shot here. And then in this window, you have your flat look, your Rec. 709 look, your show look, and then your shot look. So whatever changes you make on a shot-by-shot basis are going to appear here. There's a lot of different ways to match these shots. You can use this just as you would Resolve. You've got your color wheels here. Let's open it up a little bit. Down the highs a bit. Take out some of the saturation. Give it some warmth. Give it a little bit of warmth. Great. So we've got sort of a sunny, wintry day. And then if you hit the A key, it's going to take that shot that we just worked on and apply it matches across the rest of the timeline. So you can see they all updated, and that one looks great as it is. But if you wanted to, you click on the Enter key, and then it gives you the different AI options that are available. And then you can hit your B or N key to move through those shots. Actually, that one's nice, RGB for this instance. And then if we go back to that shot, that one looks a little dark. So then on a shot-by-shot basis, you can go and open it up a little bit. That's a good match there. So you can work through your timeline like that, sort of a more traditional approach. But I'm going to now reset this back to the defaults for this. Reset all shots. And I'm going to look at some reference stills. Okay, let's try the conformist here. Hit S, and we're going to match that. Yeah, perceptual is good. It's maybe a little dark, so I'm just going to open it up a bit. Nice. And so if we hit A now, it's going to match the rest of our timeline to that shot. With the R key, and then we can sort of see across them. That looks good. I like that. That feels maybe a little dark, so we can see if there's a better match. That's nice. And then maybe just open it up a little bit with printer lights. Good. Very quickly we got a conformist look on our timeline. Let's reset that again. Instead, this time we're going to look at Look Designer. So if you hit Command E, you jump into effectively what we saw in Resolve, but in a sort of different interface. And I kind of like this interface a little bit better, actually. So if we click here to see our negative stock, up they all pop here in this view, and you can use your B and N key to quickly move through them. So this is our negative stock. So we can find what we like. Ooh, that one kind of does some interesting things. So let's leave that one, Kodak Vision 3. Dial it up a bit. And then the contrast curve, again. Kodak 2383. I always end on Kodak 23. Let's try something different. Let's do F5 here. And we'll pick a print. Again, we just scroll through them until we find one we like. I quite like that. And then post-process. We definitely want to do this, whether it's ENR. Let's just use film print emulation here. Dial it up a little bit. The image feels a little dark, so let's open it up a bit. And we also have our subtractive color here as well, so we can push a little cyan to this. Some magenta, maybe a little bit more. And some yellow. And then the temperature. Make it warmer, cooler. Let's cool it off a little bit. So this is our look. Really quick way to use Look Designer. A nice way to visualize going through the looks. I think it's a lot quicker than actually Resolve. So Resolve, you have to go to the drop down, click the drop down, click the drop down, click the drop down. This you can just really quickly move through these. You can exit Look Designer. We'll call this Car Chase. Hit save. So now it's in my library. I can go back in and edit if I want to. I can apply this to the scene. I can apply this to unmatched shots. Set it as my project default. I'm going to apply this to the scene. So all those shots now have it. And we can go through and, make adjustments as we need to. Open things up a little bit. So very quick, very, very quick. And now that I'm done, say this is done, I'm going to give it a Resolve push. Syncing it with Resolve. So let's flip back over to Resolve and see what's happened. We now have our IDT, CDL, SHOLUT, and ODT for all the shots that we send over to Color Lab. You can import a custom node tree into Color Lab and then instruct it where you want these specific nodes to appear within it. And if we switch back and forth, if we go over to Color Lab, we can see I definitely like the way that Look Designer is implemented within the tool. More visual way of using Look Designer. I also like the using those reference stills. It's great. It's really quick. It's really fun, and you can use that matching tool, the AI, to really fine tune your look. So let's export this, and I'll show you what it looks like all put together. So that's how I've been using these tools. And I still feel like I'm really just scratching the surface of what they can do. But that's not entirely my fault. The development team at Color Intelligence deserves a huge shout out. They've been pumping out update after update, incorporating feedback and suggestions from the factory drivers and the community of people that are using their stuff. So just when I feel like I've got a handle on things, they'll unveil something new and I have to dig back in. These are amazing tools that make me better at what I do. First of all, they let me get things done more quickly, which is great. But more importantly, they let me experiment and play in a way that is really intuitive and lets me focus on the creative elements of the work, knowing that the underlying color science is rock solid. I can't recommend Color Lab and Look Designer enough, and I encourage you to check them out.